Hello super friends and welcome to DC TV Talk, and in today's episode we're going to be breaking down and reviewing Arrow Season 7 Episode 3, otherwise entitled Crossing Lines. And before you delve into this review, make sure you've seen the episode because this will be filled with spoilers. So, the main story going on in this episode, at least on the prison side of things, is that Oliver is trying to work with Brick, or Danny Brickwell, Vinnie Jones' character, as he has information on Diaz, given the fact that Diaz hired him to hire the goons that attacked Oliver in the shower in episode 1. So in doing this, he's going to have to work for Brick, in a sense, in order to get information on Diaz, and this revolves into this massive storyline that we have going on here, which is tying into potentially something bigger. Now, I think I said this in my review for episode 1 of this season, but I really miss Vinnie Jones on this show. Like, I didn't realize how much I missed him. I wasn't really, like, a huge fan of him when he was in, like, season 3 as, like, a primary threat and in season 4 and things. But, you know, it's just seeing him again now, seeing him here in Slabside, where he's a bit more grounded and he's a bit more realistic. I'm really enjoying him, and I actually didn't realize how much I missed Brick. I think he's really entertaining as a villain. He's got such a screen presence to him, and I love his interactions with Oliver. Like, I love the fact he calls him Queen. Like, I think that's really cool, and you know, the fact that he has this interaction with the man who put him away, I think is really sick in that sense. So I love seeing Brick again in this, and just seeing Oliver working with Brick is really interesting, because obviously you see how far Oliver's truly fallen here, and I think that's really interesting. Now, what you learn here is that Diaz didn't actually go to Brick directly. Instead, Diaz went to somebody inside the prison known simply as the Demon, and the Demon went to Brick. So Brick was kind of like the middleman in a sense, and you know, he tells Oliver, oh, you need to get to this demon guy, and in order to do that you still have to kind of prove your worth. So you find all these different things, and eventually you gets led to this cell, like this cell in the prison that apparently the demon is within. Oliver goes into the cell during the lights out stage of the prison, so basically during the nighttime, and that was actually a really cool aesthetic, you know, for them, because he basically had all the prisoners kind of walking around at lights out. That was quite fun. But Oliver and Stanley actually go into this cell, and they get ambushed by Ben Turner, otherwise known as Bronze Tiger, and then they get taken to this other room, and this is a really cool fight. I love this scene where it's basically, you know, Oliver versus Bronze Tiger again. I love that fight. I think it was really cool. Oliver basically flips someone off a balcony, which is hilarious, and I love just seeing him and Bronze Tiger fight again, and seeing, you know, Oliver just basically kick his ass, which was really good. So this was a really great scene. I love seeing that. But this then leads to Bronze Tiger basically saying, look, Brick, he wants you dead, but, you know, come with me, I'll take you to Brick, and they go into this secret room, which you'll find later on. Now, kudos to Michael Jai White, because I think this was a really awesome scene where just before Oliver and Stanley go into this secret room that he was on about, he gives this really awesome speech where he says, you know, Diggle never told you that I was the one who saved his life, you know, because obviously Diggle worked with Bronze Tiger when he was a member of the Suicide Squad back in season 2 and 3. So, you know, and Oliver was like, oh, he never told me that you were the one who saved his life. He's like, well, he wouldn't, would he? You know, he's like, you guys always just saw me as the criminal. We're no different. You know, look at where we are now. We're in Slabside together. We're both criminals. We're exactly the same. Really good speech. I think it was really well done, really well written, really smart in that way. And again, it's true. Diggle never told Oliver that Bronze Tiger saved his life, that, you know, one of these villains that they've been hunting for all this time actually saved his life. He never said anything about that. And I think, you know, that's very true. And I thought this was a really great scene, and again, it added like quite a lot of humanity to Bronze Tiger, because Bronze Tiger has mostly been just like a hired muscle on Arrow. Like, you know, he was in season 1 to China White, and he was as the Suicide Squad, and even now in prison he's working for Brick. So, you know, it was nice to actually give him some humanity in this scene. Now, this is where we get Prison Fight Club. This was amazing. Like, this was so entertaining. So, Oliver goes in, and he gets basically forced into this fight with Derek Sampson, who is, of course, Stardust. And this was great. Like, you got to see this awesome fight where Stardust gets his ass well and truly handed to him by Oliver. And I love this fight again. Super bloody, super brutal, super just hard-hitting. And even though Oliver is injured, like, he's still, you know, recovering from the stab wound from last episode, he still manages to fight Stardust with pretty much no problem whatsoever. And I thought this was great. And after he takes Stardust down and absolutely just, I think he like breaks his arm, he just does this amazing like monkey climb up on top of the balcony and gets to Brick, who apparently Brick seems to be controlling some of the guards in Slabside, which is interesting. They didn't really focus on that, which I found surprising. It seems like Brick has maybe corrupted Slabside a little bit. But he goes up to try and find Brick and trying to get some information about who this demon is. And this is when we find out that the demon is actually on level 2, which was actually referenced last episode. And level 2 is the area of the prison that's just like for the worst of the worst. Like, you know, if you go in there, the only way out is death, basically. You know, it's kind of like, I guess you could say it's kind of like death row in a sense. It's literally, that's the worst of the worst. That's the worst place you can go. And apparently that's where the demon is. So in order to get to level 2, Oliver just goes out and murders all of these security guards. And again, this shows how far Oliver has fallen. He's willing, in order to get information on Diaz to save his family, he is willing to just kill basically the innocent guards to get to level 2, you know, because now he's a cop killer or a guard killer. So now he's been sent to level 2. Now, of course, the big question is, who is the demon? I'm going to do a video on this separately because I feel like this is a cool topic to discuss. Now, just to give a rough idea of who it could be, obviously we do know that there is still one more character who we are yet to see who is from Oliver's past, who's in prison. I feel like this has got to be the demon character. It's got to be, especially because there's obviously this mystery surrounding it as about who this mystery character could be. Now, going by name alone, the demon, obviously, us Arrow fans would think of an Al Ghul, whether it be Ra's al Ghul, whether it be Talia al Ghul. I don't think it'd be Nyssa, but wouldn't it be really cool if it was Ra's al Ghul, especially because it's someone who Oliver never thought he'd see again. It'd be interesting if it was Ra's al Ghul, if he's actually alive. That would be really interesting. And same with Talia, because I believe Talia's death was unconfirmed. I don't know if we ever officially found out, you know, in writing that Talia al Ghul died on Lian Yu. I don't know if that was ever cleared up. Same with Evelyn Sharp. I don't think that was ever cleared up. So, you know, I'm definitely waiting to see who this demon character could be. It might not be any of them. It could be someone completely different, completely random. But going on name alone, it sounds like it could be an Al Ghul. Now, there were some other storylines going on in this episode. There was the storyline with Felicity working with the FBI and Samandra Watson to take down Diaz. Now, this was interesting because Diaz, of course, now working with the Longbow Hunters, they were looking to basically take this kind of Medi formula, which is able to prevent Ebola, I think they said. But they didn't quite know what they were going to use that for and why Diaz wanted that, because it seemed like a bit of an obscure item for him to have. But it was really interesting because you got to see Red Dart and you got to see Kodiak fight Samandra Watson and also fight Renee. This is why Renee was kind of working. It turns out Renee isn't necessarily working for the FBI like some of us thought. Instead, him, Dinah, and Felicity basically just work with Samandra Watson in order to complete this mission kind of off the books. And this was a cool fight. I really like seeing all this stuff. This was really awesome. And also Silencer was in this too. And Dinah fighting Silencer was really awesome. Just like the Silencer and Black Siren fight we got last episode. Again, completely in silence. Awesome. And we actually see Renee actually manages to capture Silencer at the end, which is really nice as well. This is potentially setting up something really cool. But seeing all this was really nice, and Samandra Watson really has improved as a character. When she first showed up last season, she was kind of annoying, kind of a pain in the, like, you know, kind of like a thorn in the side. She wasn't really that entertaining. In the finale, she wasn't too bad. Like, I thought she was okay in the season 6 finale, you know. And in this season, and in this episode, I thought she was actually really good. I really liked her. Again, they added some humanity. They added some depth in terms of her job and, like, risking her job in order to capture Diaz. That was really interesting. And I really like all that. And her working with Felicity. And though Felicity was still kind of annoying in this episode, not as bad as last week, but still kind of annoying, it was still cool to see her working with the FBI. And again, bringing Dinah into the fold. Like, Dinah kind of fluctuated a little bit. And bringing in Renee as well was really nice. And like I said, Renee actually manages to capture Silencer. Turns out he and Felicity are now holding her hostage. So they said to Samandra Watson, oh, Silencer got away. But in this, they actually have captured her and have her basically kept hostage. Now, what are they going to do with Silencer? Who knows? I guess maybe they're just going to try and get information on the Longbow Hunters and also get information on Diaz. It would be interesting if they did something a bit more heroic with Silencer. I think it'd be nice maybe if Silencer maybe took more down of a hero route, because I think Silencer is maybe my favourite of the Longbow Hunters so far. Either her or Red Dart, I don't quite know yet, but powers alone, Silencer is so interesting, and she presents the most interesting fight scenes because of it. And I think that's really awesome. So I hope they actually do something really cool with Silencer now that they have her in her custody. And the other storyline going on this season was Diggle and Lyla working with Curtis to do a kind of undercover op. And the mission itself doesn't really matter. It's kind of just like this thing that's, you know, a typical kind of Argus thing. But what was nice is you do get some tension between Diggle and Lyla in this episode. As it turns out, Lyla was actually selling information to criminals in order to get other information on the job at hand, which, you know, she basically says, you know, sometimes you do have to cross the line in order to get these things done, and she doesn't actually tell Diggle about it until he finds out separately via Curtis. And again, we get some cool dynamics here, and I really love Diggle and Lyla. Like, this is one of the best relationships in the Arrowverse. It's so well established, so well fleshed out, and I love when we get scenes with them because they're just so good. And David Ramsey and Audra Marie Anderson, they're just so good together, and I love seeing their scenes. And also, like, anytime we get Lyla in Arrow, like, she's such a treasure. Like, she's so good on this show. I really feel like Lyla should be a series regular because she's awesome. And, you know, I feel like she is going to be a bit more involved this season, obviously with Argus playing such a big role. I think it makes sense to have Lyla. So it was really nice having this story. Curtis was really good in this episode as well. I really like what they're doing with Curtis this season. I think him being a part of Argus working in R&D is the perfect place for him to be, because I've always said that. I've always felt that Curtis is a bit out of place as a character. He doesn't quite fit in on Team Arrow in the field because he's not very effective in the field, and he's not really good back at base either because they have Felicity. So I really like the fact that he's now working at R&D at Argus. That's the perfect place for him to be, and him working on the front line with Diggle and Lyla, perfect. Also, kudos to David Ramsey for delivering the best scene of the episode where he interrogates his own son. You know, he interrogates JJ about eating all the cookies. Such a lovely little scene. It was really funny, really well executed, loved it. Now, the episode ends very interestingly, where we see Diaz and the Longbow Hunters actually use this medi weapon for a specific reason. Turns out it's a drug that Diaz injects into his arm, and we then see him punch through a wall without any damage done to him or his hand whatsoever. So he's kind of given himself the Iron Fist. I don't quite know how I feel about this. I mean, this is obviously going down the more comic accurate route. This is basically him truly becoming Richard Dragon. This is him becoming the Dragon. I think that's cool. I like the fact they're doing this comic book accurate version of Diaz for this season. However, given what they've set up with Diaz last season, this feels kind of out of character for me. I'm not quite sure, you know, it doesn't quite fall into place correctly in the idea that Diaz would really want to seek out this mystical, you know, feeling kind of weapon that would turn his hand, you know, like I say, basically into Iron Fist. I think that's really weird. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, and I also personally feel like this is their way of extending Diaz's time on the show. Now, granted, I like Diaz. I love Kirk Acevedo, who plays him. I just don't really know if this is necessary. I don't really feel like this is them, you know, because I feel like, given that Kirk Acevedo is a series regular this season, they are going to have to find a way to make him relevant and make him extended and make his threat realistic, and this is their way of doing it. Because, let's face it, Oliver and Diaz are going to face off again, and, you know, based on the Season 6 finale, Oliver and Diaz, when they fought, Oliver won. Like, Oliver beat him. So how are they going to do that again without it feeling samey and without the threat feeling illegitimate? Well, they're going to have Diaz have the Iron Fist to try and take on Oliver. So it's kind of like a way of just extending Diaz's time on the show and making him a bit more threatening, you know, differently threatening in a way than we had last season. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about this, but, you know, I guess I'm just going to have to see how they do it and how they use it, how they handle it. But on first impressions, I'm not 100% sold just yet. But what did you guys think about Crossing Lines? Make sure you tell me all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you think of this episode? Overall, I thought this was still a great episode of Arrow. And even though there was, like, no flash forwards in this, which, you know, was a little bit disappointing, but, I mean, we were told about that. We were told we're not going to get flash forwards every single episode. You know, I still think this was great. Like I say, all the prison stuff was amazing in this episode. Like, the prison stuff is easily the best part of it. I loved the fight club. That was great. The stuff with Bronze Tiger, Brick, love it all. And the tease of who this demon character could be does have me very intrigued. And seeing the FBI being brought in and seeing the team kind of reform a little bit was nice. More interaction with the Longbow Hunters, who I'm really enjoying this season. And everything with Diggle and Lyla is always great. Anytime we get Diggle and Lyla, I'm perfectly happy, and it was great in this episode too. I thought this was a great episode. My only complaint, like I say, is the ending, because I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with it. But I'm willing to, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt and see how they work with it. But overall, great episode of Arrow and a great continuation for Season 7. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. It'll help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV and get them to join the community. And as always, guys, please subscribe for your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow. And with all that said, guys, I hope to see you again in my next video.